Well, ladies, welcome to week 4 in this series called Calm My Anxious Heart, which is based on the book by Linda Dillow. I hope you're enjoying this and really learning some things. We've been talking a lot about contentment in different areas of our lives, that ability to find inner peace that goes beyond our circumstances. And today we're going to talk about finding contentment in our relationships and possessions. Now, again, relationships can be very hard. People can be very disappointing to us, right? In fact, research shows that people are most stressed about relationships in their life, whether it's the jerk boss that just never cuts you any slack, or a spouse that never seems to understand you or just isn't patient or isn't caring, or our kids that are making choices that drive us crazy, or a friend that just lets us down and isn't loyal to us. I mean, there's lots of reasons for relationships to bring us stress and can bring discontent, and so can our possessions, because most of us look at things and think that thing is going to make me happy. What we're going to talk about today is we have to put relationships and possessions in their right perspective, and if we want to find contentment, then we're going to have to adjust the way we think about those things. So here's the first thing about relationships. We will never find contentment if we only focus on the imperfections in others. Now, I don't know about you, but when someone upsets me, when I'm frustrated, I want to spend some time focusing on the imperfections in others. I want to analyze why they're such a jerk, or why they're so insensitive, or why they're so irresponsible. That's what I want to focus my energy on naturally. But if we want to get to that place of contentment in relationships, then we have to remove our thought process and remove our focus from just looking at the imperfections in others. Because when we're holding on to the imperfections of others, now we're just creating a grudge, right? Now we're just building up bitterness and resentment in our heart. That's not what God wants for us. That's definitely not going to bring contentment in relationships. The truth is, and ladies, it's true for us too, people in your life aren't perfect, but either are you. And I know that that's hard. I know it's hard that when you've been hurt that we want to focus on the other person and all the flaws that they have. But that just traps us in wallowing in yucky stuff that's not going to be productive or helpful, and it's certainly not going to move the relationship along. So what we need to do is focus on something else. And here it is. If you want to find contentment in relationships, then you're going to have to look at the fact that forgiveness, even though it might feel so unnatural to give the gift of forgiveness, it is what frees us. See, if we can look at our relationships and recognize the people in our life are flawed, the people in our life are going to fail us at different times, we are also going to fail, then the idea is then we need to have a forgiving heart towards those failures. We need to be able to extend the gift, give the gift when we are hurt, when we are wounded. That instead of holding on to grudges and instead of just focusing on their failings, that we say, you know what? I'm going to forgive you for that. And I'm going to extend and give the gift of forgiveness so we can work on mending the relationship. That's how you're going to get to a place of contentment. And frankly, let's be honest, and this is a hard command, but look what the Bible tells us about forgiveness. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you. That's one of the most challenging passages to me in the Bible, because it is hard when people fail us and when relationships hurt us that we should look at them and want to be kind, and that we should want to extend forgiveness. But yet that's what God's very clear about, how forgiveness works in our lives. And forgiveness is what frees us. Forgiveness is what allows us to move the junk out of the way, to move past what the other person has done to us. It moves past the grudge and resentment and bitterness and says, you know what, we're going to find some common ground here. I'm going to give you the gift of forgiveness so we can start working on our relationship and can start earning trust, or can figure out what went wrong and how we're going to fix it in the future. And let's be honest, if anyone had an excuse to hold a grudge, it was Jesus to us. We have certainly done more than our part of wounding, hurting, and disappointing Jesus, and yet He has forgiven us freely. He doesn't hold it over our head, and He does not hold a grudge. And I thank Him for that every day. So we need to get to that place in our relationships. If we want to be content, we have to release the grievances that we hold, and we have to be freed by the gift of forgiveness. Okay, so now that we've talked about how relationships need to be in the right perspective, and how if we want a life of contentment with the people in our life, then we need to recognize that when they fail us, that we don't hold on to the grudge and the grievances and focus on their imperfections, but we are freed by the gift of forgiveness that allows us to mend broken relationships and to bring healing to situations. And so we also have to then look at how do we let possessions take over our lives, and how can that lead to a life of discontentment? Well, the main thing to be said about that is we shouldn't let anything knock God off the throne of our lives. And here's what I mean by that. For a lot of us, we put our emphasis, our worth, our value, our happiness is based on what we have. The right house, the right car, the right profession, the right spouse, the right kids, the right clothes, the right body, all of that stuff. And possessions are just things. And so what we have to be able to do is, if we want to find contentment, that inner peace beyond our circumstances, then we can't let possessions be the thing that our happiness is dependent upon. I want to share a quote from Tozer that I thought was really powerful. Within the human heart, things have taken over. God's gifts now take the place of God, and the whole course of nature is upset by the monstrous substitution. We have mixed up what we serve and what we use. Sadly, many serve things and use God. Did you catch that? I thought that was so powerful, that we've ended up worshiping the things that God blesses us with versus worshiping God. And so we've made this substitution in our life and in our mind that the things that God gives us to use, our possessions, mean more to us than our relationship with the person who's given us those things. And that's just wrong and sad. And so ladies, we need to get to this place. If we want to find contentment in our lives, then we have to look at our stuff and have the proper perspective. That everything we have is God's gift to us, and that our stuff is not going to bring us happiness. And we need to be content, happy with the things that we have, at peace with the things that we have, and not always longing for more. Because the truth is, when we get more, we're always going to want more. That's just how the human nature is. So we have to move beyond that and be like, you know what? I'm not going to let possessions be the thing I chase after to find happiness. It just doesn't work. So, ladies, here's the thing. If we want to find contentment in our relationships and our possessions, then let's have the right perspective. And let's look at people and relationships in our lives the way God has looked at us, which was to forgive us, to set us free from our mistakes, and allow us to be in a relationship with Him. And I think if you can move past just focusing on the imperfections of those that disappoint you and hurt you, and recognize that you have the power through forgiveness to mend those relationships and get those in better standing, that's going to go a long way in making you feel more content in your life, because you just see people and their imperfections in the right way and your own perfections in the right way. But then also with your possessions, to just rid yourself of greed and thinking that what you have is what makes you happy. And just be able to embrace what God's given you, whether it's in the relationships that He's brought into your life and in the things that He's given you, or maybe the things that He hasn't given you, to just find a way to be content with whatever it is that God gives. So ladies, use those questions below and have a conversation about this. This is a tough one too. This is a hard topic to talk about people and possessions. But make sure you understand that the backdrop here is that contentment is finding that inner peace beyond circumstances. So people and stuff aren't going to bring you true happiness. Only God can do that.